January 2023, and I'm starting another year. I associate the new year with changes, new beginnings, new challenges, maybe some personal goals. In any case, change. I've been thinking a lot about the timing of change. When I look at changes that I've made in my life, I see that they are subject to timing, often my own, and other times in response to external conditions. After all, I could change course at any time, on any day, and not just in January. But as I look at really important changes that I have made in my life, I realize that the ripeness of the moment of change, for me, is very often a sense that something feels so wrong that I just can't stand it anymore. I am fed up. It's my own personal discomfort meter. I become so uncomfortable that I just have to do something. I can think of the timing of big changes that I've made, such as coming out as a gay man in my 20s, or the timing of leaving a relationship, or changing a job. During the past few years of what we're coming to know as the COVID era, I've had the heat in my life turned way, way up. Starting just before COVID arrived, I had a back surgery which went wrong with infections. I had a second surgery and other complications which left me unable to walk and in intense chronic pain for most of 2020. As I began to improve, I also suffered, as I know many of you did, with COVID isolation, with our former president and so many associated political horrors, with news about police murders that led to renewed civil rights struggle and the blossoming of the Black Lives Matter movement, with work and money worries, and even a lawsuit related to our home. My husband, Richard, described it as having a 6-burner stove covered with pots, and all the pots are boiling over at the same time. I think some of you know what I mean. I can hear it. After my back pain finally subsided and my physical recovery accelerated, I was, of course, tremendously relieved and grateful. But my confidence had been shaken. So many of my assumptions about life were in question. Maybe retirement isn't what I thought. Maybe I'll be in pain for the rest of my life. Maybe disability is no longer something that just happens to others. Maybe we won't have enough money, and maybe our society is just going to go crazy. Mostly I was afraid about the future, and the constant fear left me with an intense anxiety and depression. As I dragged around our apartment for several months, my very supportive and patient husband finally said, "You had better talk to someone else to get help. I am always here for you, but I can only do so much." I knew he was right, and my discomfort meter was at the pitch of a blaring siren. Finally, I made the dreaded trip to a therapist. Those few months were life-saving and life-changing. One of the books suggested to me by my therapist was a book of Buddhist principles written by Pema Chodron called When Things Fall Apart. I'd been a reader of Buddhist-oriented books for years, but I never developed any practice. And now I am blessed with a 3 times per week meditation group here at UUSF online. And I joined a Sangha, or a practice community, introduced to me by Elena Perez, our meditation leader here at church. I know I have become more humble and at least a little bit more willing to be vulnerable, like saying all of this right now. Feeling wretched has a way of softening us up. If that's the ground for understanding others, then maybe even wretchedness can be celebrated. And I have read the book by Pema Chodron more times than I can count. It's fair for you to ask, that's a nice story, Bill, but did you change? I don't want to oversell it, but I would say I have developed a practice that's calling me to be more honest and aware. I found co-travelers on the way. And I came to realize just how much the voice in my head is constantly creating and retelling stories. Stories about past events told as fact, although I probably am misremembering them. And stories about a future that, while possible, is really so much fantasy. Change. It can take a time of crisis, but it's never too late. There are those words again, time and change. Some changes are not ready to emerge. That's okay. Maybe I'm not clear enough. And some changes can't wait. They have already waited too long. I may be hurting myself or others waiting, and that seems like the clarion call of a past due date. Something I'm learning is that the present moment is perfect, always. Actually, the ripeness is now.